Good evening. You're watching NTV's Grow. Tonight on the show, cattle prices are expected to continue climbing. We'll tell you why. And farmers are really able to get into those fields and really crack out some harvest, and that's because of the weather being cooperative this last week. Find out if it will continue to cooperate in your Grow forecast as well. Thank you for joining us. First of all, farmers, even here at this elevator in Funk, you can see that they are starting to roll in with the crop here this year because they were able to finally get into those fields several days in a row. According to the U.S. Agriculture Department, there were only about 4 days suitable for field work a couple weeks ago. Only 32% of the corn crop was harvested. That's 44% behind the average. 68% of the crop is good or excellent. 80% of the soybeans are harvested. That's closer to the average at 81%. 69% of soybeans is considered good or excellent. And now that the skies have cleared up a little bit so farmers can get into that field, progress has really picked up here, and NTV's Alyssa Willard has more.
Corn harvest is in full swing, and with weather now dry and favorable, area farmers have been putting in long hours to get the job done. With wet weather these past few weeks, many area farmers have seen an impact on their corn harvest. But upland farmer Bob Susie says they've had a pretty easy go of it this harvest season.
The weather's kind of been pretty favorable for us. We weren't down a lot during the weather, and we haven't had very many breakdowns, which helps. So it's going pretty good.
Long hours in the field are moving farmers along as best they can, and with smaller operations like Susie's, that can take a while.
We're not a big operation. We just I have one full-time man and me, and then my son comes out a little bit later to run the grain cart. I run the trucks, and he runs the grain cart, and Greg runs the combine.
And once harvest is taken care of, farmers will see a difficult time off the field as well. Though yields are about average this year, they'll be seeing prices at about half that from last year, thanks to more national production.
They had a lot more corn in Iowa and Illinois. They had more rain, and so there's more crop, so less price.
And once harvest is all said and done, there's one common thing many farmers are looking forward to.
Rest. We've been putting in some pretty big days, and everybody's getting kind of tired. So hopefully we'll get some rest.
Added semi and tractor activity will continue to be expected along many of the rural roads and highways, so it's important that drivers keep an extra eye out during this harvest season.
So how is harvest going in your area? We do want to hear from you, and you can do that by participating in our poll question. It's at nebraska.tv. Just click on NTV's Grow. You can also post on our Facebook and Twitter pages. The Farm Service Agency is playing catch up now as they're finally able to send out checks for the Conservation Reserve Program. Those checks are going out this week. They were delayed due to the lapse in federal funding. Payment delays created a burden for some landowners, so the USDA prioritized, and those payments are going out as quickly as possible. In Nebraska, this covers nearly 9,000 acres. Participants agreed to remove environmentally sensitive land from agricultural production and plant grasses, legumes, and trees to improve water quality, reduce erosion, conserve water, and improve waterfowl and wildlife habitat. The government shutdown may be over, but inaction on the Farm Bill is impacting the CRP program. Legislation has not been enacted to reauthorize or extend this authority. So as of October 1st this year, FSA cannot approve or process new applications for CRP. And now an update on the cattle killed in the Panhandle due to an early blizzard here this month. The producers in that area lost over 2,000 head of cattle. The cattle deaths came little more than a year after wildfires damaged more than 900 miles of fence line and reduced the region's cattle population to less than 45% of its normal number. The numbers are not yet definitive. Area extension educators suggest producers should document both their losses and the number of cattle they owned before the winter storm. Donations to help the victims can be made to the First National Bank Community Foundation in Chadron. And western South Dakota ranchers were really hit hard as well. A South Dakota Stock Growers Association official says tens of thousands of cattle were killed there, and it will have a staggering economic impact. Stock Growers Executive Director said cattle in the area before the blizzard were worth $550 million, with a potential impact of $1.7 billion on the area. So far, there's been no federal aid. A relief fund set up after the blizzard has about $300,000 in donations so far. Money has come from people in 48 states and 3 countries. The timing of that snowstorm fell within the government shutdown, and the farm bill still being delayed. It's all impacting the financial aid that can go to those cattle producers. Governor Heineman reacts.
As you know, northwest Nebraska was hit with a blizzard at the same time a tornado struck Wayne. The impact of the blizzard to cattle producers is estimated to be that more than 2,000 cattle were lost. Additionally, there were a small amount of acres of corn affected by the tornado, and the good news is that businesses are quickly recovering their operations and getting them back up and running.
And U.S. Senator Deb Fischer writes a letter to federal officials highlighting the livestock losses in western Nebraska. Senator Fischer points to the substantial economic impact felt by cattle producers, coupled with the drought and that early season storm. As for the cattle industry, the prices really seem to be climbing, and some say they could climb even higher. We have an interview on that later on here in the show. Meanwhile, when disaster strikes, food is an immediate need. Some in the ag industry are reaching out and also raising awareness on National Food Day. Nebraska wheat growers took the mobile baking lab to tornado-hit Bethel Acres, Oklahoma. On Thursday and Friday, they served a pasta dinner and continental breakfast from the mobile baking lab to families and relief workers. This past summer, as tornadoes plagued Oklahoma City, another tornado ripped through Cleveland and Pottawatomie counties in Oklahoma. Many families are still working to recover and rebuild. And area ag youth are having an impact on hunger in the area. They were able to bring in over 13,000 pounds of food during Husker Harvest Days. This was the America's Farmers Food Drive, and FFA chapters, 4-H clubs in Nebraska participated, over 86 of them. The top 3 ag youth organizations that brought the most food were Chambers, East Butler, and Ravenna FFA chapters. 3 out of 4 food pantries report an increase in the number of people they serve in recent years. To help alleviate hunger in Nebraska, Monsanto, Farm Progress, and the Howard G. Benefit Foundation sponsored the food drive. And the Buffett Foundation is even doing more. Warren Buffett's son and grandson are on a mission to end world hunger, and they explain what they're doing to help farmers around the world.
Your goal is to feed the world, frankly.
That's kind of a big goal, but I think it's a goal to shoot for.
Howard Buffett and his son think the best way to fight hunger is to learn how to farm better.
You know, when you think about that, there's tens of millions of farmers that can't feed their families. You know, that's just wrong. You don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the political leadership, you have corruption, you don't have the governance you need to do it. The huge part is you don't have the knowledge, and you don't have a way to distribute the knowledge.
Howard's father, legendary investor Warren Buffett, has given billions to their cause.
Is the return on investment coming through?
On my 82nd birthday, I doubled the commitment, and I wouldn't have done that unless I felt terrifically about what they're doing.
Much of their work is in conflict zones, like in Africa and Afghanistan, detailed in their new book, 40 Chances.
What we've learned is that you can't wait for the conflict to end. So one of the most important things you can do is find the small or large, but find the investments that you can make at the time that things are not stable, and they'll lead to stability.
We spent over a year in a specific community in western Afghanistan working with the farmers, and over time we were able to provide them with the linkages that they were missing so that they could grow better crops, they could get those crops to market.
Howard has learned a lot from his father, but credits his mother most of all.
I don't think I would have made those choices, the choices that we make today in a lot of what we do, if I hadn't had her influence.
He got his values from his mother, no question about that.
Another influence, public school.
They saw America as most Americans see America, rather than from some rarefied perch. I want my children to understand the world that they live in through the eyes of the people of that world. And the fact they've got some money to do some good things is great, but they'll do them better if they've lived in the world rather than looked at the world.
And the Buffett Foundation has used about 50% of its funding here this past year, fighting hunger here in the U.S. And Governor Heineman, he announces the newest members to the Ag Youth Council. He said it's an exciting time to be a part of the ag industry, and he's proud that these young adults have exhibited strong interest in the business.
This year, the NAYC is a group of 21 college-aged men and women who have a passion for the agricultural industry and for educating others about agriculture.
This will be the 43rd year for the NAYC. Throughout the year, the council is responsible for coordinated ag learning experience for Nebraska youth and coordinating the annual Nebraska Agricultural Youth Institute. It's a 5-day conference for current high school juniors and seniors. We have your grow forecast coming up later in the show, and find out what's happening in the cattle industry. That's after the break. Stay with us.